been through a few things, and the struggle is real. But I have learned something in my life, that there are three things that we all must do in order to believe in ourselves. Number one, first, we need to see ourselves. I mean, really, truly, deeply see ourselves for who and what we are in order to believe in ourselves. Number two, we've got to think about ourselves in order to believe in ourselves. Because when we believe in ourselves and act on it, we create possibilities that never would have been possible had we not just believed. I challenge all of you to start a meaningful practice of looking in the mirror and loving what you see. Believe in what you see. If you can't love it, then respect it. And if you can't respect it, then encourage it. If you can't encourage it, empower it. And if you can't empower it, please be kind to it. Remember, I told you this. That is what believing looks like. And don't you ever give up on you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight on Real Talk with Jean Price. I am so glad you have tuned in. Listen, you have time to go and tell people to like, to comment, and most importantly, we want you to share. Every time I'm on Wednesdays at 6:30, you get an opportunity, even if you watch the playback, tell somebody Real Talk with Jean Price is on, because they're going to want to see it. But I have some exciting news that I want to share tonight. Saturday, February 10th at 12 noon, we are doing a live in-person show. You don't want to miss it. Go to my Facebook page. There is a link. Sign up. Tickets are free. Go and get your free tickets. Listen, we're going to have giveaways. We're going to have music. We have some guests that are coming. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be a live show. Live Real Talk with Jean Price. So many amazing things we have in store. And I can't wait. I want you to be a part of my studio audience. You never know. You might be one of the ones to really win something big and great. So again, join us on Saturday, February 10th at 12 p.m. where we will be live. But for tonight, I have a wonderful guest that's going to be joining me. We're going to be talking about something that it's probably one of my favorite topics, because it's called the journey to become. And I love that topic because where we wind up is not where we started. So I love hearing the pathway or the journey, as we mentioned, of somebody's life and how they became to where they are right now, and how their lives or their story becomes a blessing for someone else. So I want to take this time to welcome my guest. I want to welcome Marissa Hercules to Real Talk with Jean Price as we talk about the journey to becoming. Hi, Marissa.
Hi, nice to meet you all.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you for joining us tonight, Marissa. I'm excited about this topic. I'm excited to hear your story. But before we get started, Marissa, why don't you just kind of introduce yourself, and then we begin to our conversation.
Well, my name is Marissa Hercules. I am an attorney. I actually work for the city of New York. I've been practicing for, oh my goodness, a little over 7 years now. Wow. And I love learning, but it's definitely a very intriguing experience as legal counsel.
Wow. So what inspired you to pursue a career in law?
That came from a combination of places. Believe it or not, one of the biggest things that encouraged me was history, learning so much about the progress. And I know a lot of people don't realize it, but our government system is very impressive because of the ability we have to be so engaged. And one of the biggest places we can be engaged is the law. A lot of the changes we've seen, Brown v. Board of Ed, a lot of that came from lawyers, from people being brave enough to argue and even preserve a lot of the policies, rules that we want to see get applied or even changed. And a lot of the ways to do that is through counsel.
Wow. I can't even imagine your pathway, right, to becoming a lawyer, going to law school. Were there any challenges, any obstacles that you had to face along in this journey that somebody listening to you tonight is like, okay, well, she's a lawyer, she's here now, but what did it take to get there?
Well, I would say that my path started very early, but I was interested at a very young age. But one of the biggest things that I think had helped is reading. Um,
Okay.
I did speech and debate, but a lot of what you are learning is from being brave enough to read and not just looking at the traditional stories, but as sometimes it might seem boring, but looking at uh, decisions, looking at how we've developed as a country, learning through history kind of really developed my interest. And then from there in college, as
Mhm.
much as pre-law is a lot of times the biggest way people pursue it, I didn't. I actually went through philosophy. I even was an African American studies major because you'll be surprised how many pivotal situations have occurred that will allow you to realize how the law works, how it develops, and where
Mhm.
you can get engaged.
Mhm. At any point, Marissa, as you were talking, what thought that came to my mind was sometimes people that go to law school, or maybe they want to be a doctor, right? They,
Yes,
in their minds, they say they want to make a difference. Did you ever have that
absolutely.
feeling? Oh
Well, I
my.
actually say I was one of them. Right around the time I was looking at college, it was between becoming a dancer or going to law school. And was interested. I found some colleges that did both, but I think from speech and debate, those first times, and you have those really passionate conversations, arguments. In fact, it's one of the few places where you get paid to argue, as
Right.
long as you know what you're talking about.
Right.
And but I found it so rewarding getting the chance to really attack and sometimes even really discuss
Okay.
rules that we may not agree with, information or situations we don't agree with.
Right.
Because one of the great things about this country is that there is a place to say something. And a lot of times it may be before a judge, it may be before an arbitrator, it may be before other people. Knowing what the rules are, I think really helps going further in this country. And one of the biggest groups that manage and fight with or against the rules are attorneys.
Wow. My husband and I have, like, we'll say that my youngest daughter, because she's a debater, right?
Yes.
So, and my husband, more my husband than me, would say to her, you should have went to school to be a lawyer. When you
Never too late.
Right. Now that is true. So when you finally dove yourself into it, did you realize that, yeah, was that feeling there? Like you knew that this is what you're supposed to do? Like, I know I work a lot with women and girls and I travel, and it's something about the purpose and the passion collide. They began to collide for me. Did you find that you had maybe a similar experience when you like, yeah, now I realize this is it. This is it.
I had had that going into college.
Oh,
When and it came from, like you said, debating. I did mock trials, so you got to actually really see everything, and that incredible opportunity. I think what had really resonated for me was that opportunity to really present how you feel about something in a place where it's going to be respected. I know a lot of people feel like they're not heard or that what they care about isn't considered. And I think one of the beautiful things about the law, and it doesn't always have to be litigation, it could be
right.
anything from negotiation or even talking about agreements and arrangements. Understanding how those rules work can
Right.
really empower you when you want to make a point to not
Mhm.
just be off, but to really make something that'll be listened to and paid
Okay.
attention to because you know the rules and how society works. Our society does work on a basis of rules, even though
Mhm.
it doesn't always seem like it. But I
Right.
think it's so much because people don't know them. And it can be it's not always just criminal. It's
Right.
knowing if you're in an accident. It's knowing if you want to buy something. It's knowing if you think you were improperly treated. Knowing what those rules are and being brave enough and oftentimes just aware. It
Yeah.
can really make this really interesting, especially if you like that fight.
Right. Right. Just even listening to you talk, and I'm Wow, it's just so good to have somebody that really understands and really have tapped into what is supposed to be. And I love that because you get an opportunity, as you stated, right, to know what it's supposed to be. No one can really, I don't want to say get over on you because I don't want to say it like that, but you understand. And you'd be surprised how some of us who are not in law, we might not understand all those all those
Yes.
little things inside and try. And you can sit back and go, but wait a minute, you feel it, right? But you may not
Right.
have an understanding of it. So I appreciate the fact that you are one of those people that understands. You can talk about it. You could dive into it. Were there any mentors that, as you were going through your journey, that played a role in your decision?
Yes, I can say one of the biggest ones actually, it was from high school, was one of my very closest friends. Her mother was the first Supreme Court justice not I believe appointed and then later elected in New York, in Nassau County. Her name was Justice Michelle Woodard. And so it was a tremendous opportunity to actually see where we could go, and one of the avenues you can go as an attorney or in the law and really get that direct experience. I was an intern in high school, and so getting the chance not just to see the courtroom from the perspective of the well, unfortunately tends to be the biggest one, the criminal side, but seeing from the
Right.
civil side. So many people forget that. And one of the reasons I really wanted to be an attorney was to be able to give that information. I can
Yes.
almost say it's analogous with a doctor. As much as we see a lot of some of the general symptoms, it's the doctors that learn all those nuances. It's the
Yes.
same thing in the law. There are so many times you almost wish you could just tell people how that
Mhm.
fight or what they want to do can be accomplished. But that doesn't mean you're going to know everything. And a lot more of that knowledge is going to come from us as counsel,
Absolutely.
who really can be very helpful.
That's a blessing. So, as a young Black or African American woman, how did that shape you being a lawyer? Did that make you feel even more like, wow, as a young African American woman, I can make a difference for my culture, for my people? Did that play a role in any way?
I would definitely say it does. It's surprising because unfortunately, the legal world does not have much of a presence of people of color.
Okay.
So it is unfortunate that we're still trying to get our foot through the door. But one of the things that is very rewarding is when you meet someone who may be interested. Sometimes, a lot of times, it may be support staff such as filers or paralegals who thought maybe they didn't expect to go this far. And then they'll meet, because most of the attorneys don't tend to look like them. And then they'll meet someone like myself and
Right.
they'll realize that this journey has not ended. You can keep going even further. I mean, and I could say for myself, a lot of the most rewarding situations are when you go before a judge. Like
Mhm.
one of my mentors, as I said, Justice Michelle Woodard, to see us going that far,
Mhm.
and other incredible judges that I've met. For example, the city's legal counsel is being managed by one of the first appellate judges, and her name was Justice Sylvia Hines Radix. Again,
Wow.
proud African American woman. And
Beautiful.
one of the things I would want to make sure to stress is we're here because of our capability. And I think when people see that, a lot of times it happens during depositions, you could be speaking volumes about changing the perspective of what it is to be Black and female, not
Yes.
necessarily always by coming at it head on, by
Yes.
giving that example that can show, no,
Wow.
everyone doesn't look like what we're seeing on television. They are capable, competent, strong. They don't have to necessarily always be the boisterous version we see, but we can still be just as strong and just as, I guess, impactful.
Yeah. And you even being an attorney and those that you mentioned, your voice makes a difference, meaning you have
Yes.
that, you're out there, you're making a difference in what you're saying. And, it's like it's opening up the understanding of so many people. And I'm so glad you talked about that. Could you imagine all the young girls that's out there that could look at you and be like, I want to be like her one day?
I've
How did
met that.
so can you share?
I've met that. A
Wow.
lot of times, as I've said, sometimes it's been during depositions where you might meet the support staff. They might be interns. They might be people who just are doing filing. and all they've seen are particular attorneys, the partners that look like one type of person, and then someone like me will come in. So I'm not going to lie. Yes, I've been in plenty of situations where you come in and they'll assume you're the client or you're the court reporter, and then they find out, no, I'm your opposing counsel. And I'm not just your opposing counsel, I'm your opposing counsel that might have just shut your case down. And you'll be surprised how much that change comes, not just from, as you said, the younger people who I want to continue to motivate.
Yes.
We need more of us here. This is not, this is not nowhere near impossible. You just have to stick with it. There are plenty of us here who want to help, who want to make sure, give you that perspective, to give you our experiences, because the more of us here, the better the understanding of what it'll be as a African American woman in society, we made for society as a whole.
You know, in my church, we have a young lady who's also an attorney, and she went back, I want to say a little later in years, but I have to tell you, watching her go through that journey and just staying with it, I just keep saying, I have to salute you, because I think it's so good to show other, in this case, other women, that it doesn't matter how old you are, like whatever journey, whatever you strive for, it's so attainable. But I think it's the made up mind that you have to keep pursuing it. When you knew you made up your mind, now that you're an attorney, you're there, do you want to go further, or is this it?
Well, one of the things that I think people need to also understand is, like medicine, being an attorney is a gateway to a lot of different types of law. And I think sometimes that's what people forget. One of the most satisfying, rewarding things that I've learned as an attorney is actually wills and estates. Now, a lot of people think that the law is just criminal or you're suing someone, but there are so many avenues in the law, and the law is evolving. I mean, cyber tech information is going to become a whole new wave of information. And so I would say, I know everyone sees thinking that the next step is becoming a judge or becoming a partner, but it can be anything. The law is in every element of what we do in this country, because we have a rubric to make sure no one gets taken advantage of. The law's benefit is to make sure you have an avenue to make sure things are done fairly, or you can address those issues. So you can go anywhere in the law. It can help you in business. And so, in fact, one of the most rewarding things I meet are friends who don't necessarily go the whole legal route. They get the JD and they go into business, or they go into medicine, because you'll be surprised how much so many things overlap. So for me, actually, I probably like to go and get my LLM, which is a little bit further. And I'd like to learn that more in tax law, because I think so much of that information has been made difficult for many people to understand. So I think channels like yours are very important to make sure it becomes more approachable.
Right.
And maybe to open the door for people who want that communication.
Yeah. You know, you said something, and I'm glad my viewing audience can, I'm going to pivot a little bit, but you said something that's powerful. That's what I love about Real Talk, not because I'm the host, I promise you, is that with my team and I would try to have that platform, as you stated, where people can come on, and it's not about little me or big you. It's really about us working together. If I can be that conduit to allow you to express and people to see, in fact, to glean what you're doing is so powerful. That's what Real Talk is really all about. Having those conversations, talking about what's really going on, and allowing you, a person like yourself, to come on and be able to share. So now somebody watching you is gonna be like, wait, I want to be a lawyer like her. So I just want to say to you, thank you for saying that, because that's what Real Talk is really all about. But what we're going to do, we're going to take a commercial break. But I want to hear some more about your story, because I find it intriguing. It's so encouraging, and most importantly, it's very inspiring. We'll be right back on Real Talk with Jean Price.
I've been through a few things, and the struggle is real. But I have learned something in my life, that there are 3 things that we all must do in order to believe in ourselves. Number 1, first, we need to see ourselves. I mean, really, truly, deeply see ourselves for who and what we are in order to believe in ourselves. Number two, we've got to think. Think about ourselves in order to believe in ourselves. Because when we believe in ourselves and act on it, we create possibilities that never would have been possible had we not just believed. I challenge all of you to start a meaningful practice of looking in the mirror and loving what you see. Believe in what you see. If you can't love it, then respect it. And if you can't respect it, then encourage it. If you can't encourage it, empower it. And if you can't empower it, please be kind to it. Remember, I told you this. That is what believing looks like. And don't you ever give up on you.
Hello, welcome back to Real Talk with Jean Price. I hope you are enjoying my conversation with the journey to becoming and my wonderful guest that's on tonight. We've been sharing, just dialoguing back and forth on what it's like to be in a profession where there's not many young African-American women, but to see the accomplishments that she has obtained is absolutely phenomenal. Help me welcome my guest back to Real Talk, Marissa Hercules, back to Real Talk with Jean Price. Welcome back, Marissa.
Great to be back.
Well, Marissa and I have been really having a great discussion about her journey to becoming an attorney and that purpose and how she is navigating. So, Marissa, we're going to jump right back in. I want to ask the question, can you describe any opportunities or experiences, right, that you've seen along the way, like different, whatever had doors that have pivoted and opened just for you?
Well, one of the most interesting parts about it is the law is very interactive. It's because it is so interpretive. So I think some of the most rewarding situations you may be in is getting invited to work for other entities. I believe two of the firms I had worked for in the past, they were invitation. And one of them was literally a counsel I was fighting against. He turned out to be the partner of a very large firm who had invited to see if I would like to work for them. So one of the things that I really like about, and I would recommend when you're in this career and in most careers, is to care about the way that you act. You may be surprised sometimes the most pivotal thing you might do is present yourself with confidence and just being aware of what you're doing. It could be as simple as a conference about discovery. It can be something as complicated as handling a case on an appeal. And you'll be surprised sometimes it may not be what you say, but how you say it that can make a difference. And I know that that's helped me on quite a few experiences. Just the way that you may act can speak much more than what you say.
So you being an attorney, is it in different facets of law? Like, because you can be given different cases, right, about different things?
Yes. Well, I predominantly work on the tort side. So that's where most people see the personal injury, but it could be anything. It could be, there's elements of contract breach. So you might actually be interpreting agreements. Criminal doesn't necessarily come up too much on my side, but it's something that can come up. One of the cool things about the law is when you are admitted, you can practice in anything. So you could appear on a criminal case. You can handle someone's will. You can help somebody or defend someone against a lawsuit. Honestly, that's one of the really great things about the law that I've always been interested in. It's in so many things. So yeah, it does give you a lot of opportunity.
That's good. So how do you feel that it's impacted our community as far as being a lawyer, but yet do you do community outreach? Do you go back and do career day? And the reason I ask those questions is because you have a success story. Really it is.
And I'm still growing.
And we are, right, it's true. But even with success stories, do you go back to your community and give back?
Well,
or
some of the
something?
best ways, I was a big sister. I'm big brother, big sister, and that was one of the most rewarding things I had gotten the chance to do because you met a lot of younger children. Even though I'm from Long Island, was working in Queens, and it's surprising to hear how many people, especially at a very young age, already think that this is not going to be available to them. This is not going to be an opportunity. And then they meet someone like you and you talk to them and you show them that there is that those limitations may not be there that you think are there. And even if they are there, that means you actually need to go and get rid of them by being brave enough to enter into them. Another thing that's also something I've been very interested in are bar associations, because a lot of times they will do events, anything from mock trial, sometimes to we don't get as many options as we do, but to do speaking at different occasions or events. Um, and I think also with the city, something that does happen is you get a lot of newer attorneys. So it could be anything from simple mentorship to help shape and give kind of, I guess, experience to help those who are also trying to go this path of any walk of life.
Mhm.
Kind of those steps so you can learn faster and you can get more entrenched in this area because you might end up being someone that could change even what we understand today too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Was there ever a time though that you felt like you in schooling that you just wanted to stop? You know, sometimes we go through, we know there's a, she's laughing. There is a goal at the end. We know that. But was there a time that you wanted to stop?
Yes, and that's happened. I think one of the most difficult parts, and I found out that it's actually a move made by by most law schools, is that first year. It's meant to be a curve. It's meant to be a
Okay.
curve because they're trying to, and so you'll get a lot of times difficult, frustrating work because they want to make sure that when you're doing this, you're gonna go the distance. And I would say, even though you may get those professors that could be obnoxious, in fact, one of the scariest things they will do is it may be a simple question. And if you show even I guess, a little bit of an inkling of knowledge, they're going to go after you and you're going to be going back and forth and questioning. And sometimes you'll be nervous or think, I'm not at this stage. I shouldn't do this. One of the biggest things I would say is go for it because the law is interpretive. You may not even realize you might be making a point better than you even realized. I remember one of the scariest assignments I had was in was a I guess I'm trying to think of the way it was the type of class, but it was in legal research. And I had thought I had messed up an assignment, but you know what? I went for it and I just the information that I found. And I found out that I had found case law that my professor didn't even realize was applicable. You have no idea
Wow.
how your situation, you may think you might be doing wrong and you could be completely either learning or even changing a perspective. So yes, there are definitely opportunities of frustration, but you honestly, it's still worth it to continue. You can always get past it,
Mhm.
and you might
Mhm.
realize looking back, wow, I can't believe I did that. And it might just give you that motivation to continue.
What would you say to your younger version of yourself?
Mm. See, we got here. I always knew I wanted to do this, and I am really glad I stuck with it because yes, I remember, I think in college, you got no, there aren't really black attorneys, you know, we're paralegals, we're secretaries, or even in law school. And you know that there's probably you and five other people in a class of potentially 100. It's worth it. It's definitely one of the most empowering feelings are going to be those times when you come into a courtroom and you're one of the few people there and you've dismissed someone's motion or
Wow.
you've made a compelling might change a judge's view because you're not just changing that, you're changing the perspective that's believed about being
Mhm.
black and being female or sometimes being both.
And is that mostly, do you think, in your presentation, as you stated before, how you present, like an opening argument, let's say, for instance, how you
Mhm.
present that opening argument? Do you demand, does it demand, like in the courtroom when you're speaking, do you find that people are like, wow, all eyes are on you? Because I watch a lot of
Believe it or
SBA
not,
cases, you know?
Well, remember, SVU is a little bit more, I guess, volatile because you're dealing with rights, but you'll be surprised. Yeah, I can say I've had experiences and because it on the civil side as well, because a lot of people don't realize that one is way more pervasive and so a
Mm,
lot of times more impactful. Brown v. Board of Ed was about the ability to access schooling. It had nothing to do with criminal law, even though a lot of it's been used to shape how people of
right.
color are treated. But
Mhm.
it was in fact, one of the most pivotal cases that led to Brown v. Board of Ed was fighting for the right to be an attorney, to go to law school. And I think that was one of the biggest cases that had really inspired me because you saw that something as simple as well, not necessarily as simple, something probably less as dramatic, but yet still impactful as arguing a point. Even though it was before a Supreme Court, you'll be surprised how many people's opinions will be completely changed. And I can say that's happened to me in court, where you may start off on an argument and it's believed to be a loser. And then you start making a point and you see the
Right.
judges' faces change. And you might look back and you'll see other attorneys who are there on their cases and they'll look up, almost showing interest, almost like it's a sports game. They want to
Mhm.
see what's going to happen. And then they remember that, the person who's standing there is Black woman, even though most of the people there don't look like that. And
Right.
you might, the next time you're looking at candidates, may remember, you know what, I think I want to look outside the box of what people are
Mhm.
supposed to look
Mhm.
like. You might be surprised where that intel, that ability came from. So that's why I'm thankful for all the past firms I've worked for because they were brave enough to do that. And I think it's really been helpful to shape opinions and understanding on both sides.
Wow. This has been a great conversation. I just want to ask one other question. If there was a young lady watching you right now, right? And I know you answered me as far as the younger version of yourself, but there's somebody that's inspiring that's listening to your story tonight. And that's one of the things that I found that Marissa, that oftentimes when I'm telling my story of what I've gone through in my past to where I am in my present, um, I find that young girls look at me like, wow, but if she can do it, so can I. Or if she can become it, so can I. What would you say to that young girl that's looking at you?
That you're absolutely right. That your story may not look like someone else's, but that doesn't mean it's not going to work. The
Mm-hmm.
law is, again, in everything. So where you may have started and maybe think, okay, I may not go this complete distance, that doesn't mean you may not turn yourself into a wonderful, you might academic or even in, or like I said, business, and business goes into everything. Do not give up on it. The law is not always even going just directly to law school. You can also intern and learn maybe from that different practice and still get to law school. One of the funniest things I will say is, as much as you go through law school, one of the biggest times you learn the law is while you're preparing for the bar prep. I swear I learned most of the law the year before I took the bar than I did over the 3 years that I actually was in law school. And
Wow.
even still there, I'm still learning the law. It's evolving, it's going to keep changing. And so the more we have representation like us, is what we can do to shape and change how it's applied and how it's understood
Mhm.
across all racial groups and of course across the genders.
Right, right. Wow, thank you for that. Well, I want to thank my viewing audience tonight. I want to thank Marissa for sharing with us her journey, her story. And listen, if you are someone out there and you know that you have maybe a young person that's going to watch Marissa, but yet they inspire to be an attorney, she's a living witness to what dreams look like. I have this painting, Marissa, in my office, and it says, "Girls with dreams become women with vision."
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then listening to your story, you said you always wanted to be. And now here you are. We can look at you like there's this vision of this wonderful African American woman that's obtained the dream that she once thought about when she was a little girl. So thank you from all of
Thank you.
for just allowing us to take just a little peek into your journey tonight. So thank you so much for being a Real Talk. Listen, don't forget about February 10th to my viewing audience. Come to the live show. We're going to follow up with Marissa. We're going to see what she's doing in another couple of months. We'll bring her back on the show because listen, Marissa has a lot going on. She's so inspiring to those that have been watching. Thank you for joining me tonight on Real Talk with Jean Price. Thank you again, Marissa. We'll see you next week, same time. 6:30 on
It's
Wednesday.
been a real
I've been through a few things, and the